Hello, George Go here with Bug Out Trailers. Today I'm going to go over some of the tools I use in the bug out build process. Now I'm going to show you items off of Amazon and Harbor Freight, but that doesn't mean that you have to purchase through Amazon or Harbor Freight. Obviously you can pick up these items at your a business of your choice. So these are just for examples so that you know what is required or what will be needed in the bug out build. Start out with the jigsaw. I use the jigsaw for some wood cutting and also for most of the foam cutting. This particular jigsaw on Amazon offers the orbital blade action, which I find quite useful when cutting the foam. When I cut the foam, the blade on the jigsaw does tend to load up with foam and then doesn't want to cut real well. And with my old jigsaw, I used to have to back off the blade a bit so it would clean and then continue the cut. But with this orbital action, I found that I didn't need to do that quite as often. So I do recommend that on a jigsaw if you need to buy one. But if you already have a jigsaw that doesn't have this feature, it would probably work just as well. Just remember to back off and get that blade to clean out before continuing the cut. This particular jigsaw on Harbor Freight is the one that I use, and again it has the orbital action, blade action as well. So once we have a jigsaw, we need a jigsaw blade, and I found in cutting foam that the coarse cut blades seem to work the best, and of course a wood cutting blade. They don't make a foam cutting blade, but wood cutting blade. But in most cases we will need a blade that's at least 1 inch longer than the thickness of the foam you're cutting. So in my case, we're using 2-inch foam, so I would need a blade at least 3 inches long. But just to make sure, I either use a 5 or a 6-inch long blade in my cutting process. So this is just one off of Amazon that would probably work for the application. And then of course we have the Harbor Freight option, which is a set of blades, and this is the one that I use. And I used the longer black blade this last time on the lower left hand side there. But of course it comes with a lot of other blades that come in useful for other things around the house, and in some cases the thinner foams they'll work for, some of these will work fine for that as well. And then of course we will need a drill, and this is one off Amazon. A variable speed is kind of handy. It's not necessary if you already have a drill that's not variable speed. I would just use that, and this is just one option. And of course we have the Drill Master from Harbor Freight, and this particular unit is one that I've used in my bug out builds, and it does seem to work quite well, and it gets the job done. Of course, if you have a drill, then you need a drill bit. So I find that in most cases you can get a drill bit set for a pretty reasonable price, and it'll have the sizes that you need for your build. Really only need like, I don't know, 3-4 different sizes, but by the time you buy all those drill bits in their individual form, you might as well just go out and buy a nice set. So this is one set off of Amazon, and then of course we have the Harbor Freight version, which I believe is the same kit for a little bit better price. And of course Harbor Freight does offer 20% off coupons quite frequently, so if you go to Harbor Freight often, you can pick up these items at 20% off discount in most cases. Then we have the soldering gun. This particular soldering gun here is the one that I use, and it works. I've had it for many years. It works quite well for what we need to use it for in the bug out build, which is generally melting the foam for certain applications, which we'll get into more once we get into the build. Harbor Freight has an option as well, and it would probably work fine for a bug out build. When it comes time to build the trailers, if you buy a kit, then you will need some tools like sockets, and a socket wrench, and an extension, which will make it a lot more handy. And this is one available off of Amazon if you don't already have a set. And this is one available off of Harbor Freight. Of course, once you put the trailer kits together, they have a nut and a bolt. So you'll put your ratchet on the one or the other, and then you'll need a wrench to put on the opposite side. So a wrench set will be needed, and this is just an option through Amazon. And then there's the option through Harbor Freight. Also, in building the trailer kits, there are some large nuts that will either require a larger combination wrench set, or in my case I just used 2 adjustable wrenches. I find the 10-inch to be a pretty universal size. This is one through Amazon. And then we also have one through Harbor Freight. Also, we'll need some screwdrivers, and this is a screwdriver set available through Amazon. And then of course we have the Harbor Freight version. I use this tool a lot in the bug out build. I use it a lot in cutting the canvas once the glue is dried on the foam. I also use this scraper in the build. It comes in handy for scraping glues and caulking along edges. This is an Amazon version that I found, but Harbor Freight offers a different version. Might be a little more dangerous, but probably would work for you as long as you're cautious. This tool I haven't used yet, but I'm including it in this video because I have a feeling I will be using it in the future. It is probably going to be used to rough up the surface for a better foam to canvas glue up. So I'll just put this one up there, so if we are using it, it's here in the tools I use. This brings us to the pinwheel. I use the pinwheel to create a better bonding surface for the glue on a foam to foam glue up or a foam to wood glue up. The caulking gun, I use this for, of course, with caulk, and then also for many of the glues that I use. This one here is an Amazon version, and of course Harbor Freight does also sell these, and I see these quite often at the dollar stores, so save yourself some money and just pick them up at the dollar store. This is a 9-inch roller, and I use this for glue and for paint. This is a 9-inch roller through Amazon. Of course, we have the 9-inch roller through Harbor Freight, and then also a 2-inch roller through Amazon. I didn't see a 2-inch at Harbor Freight, but they may sell them as well. But I've also seen the 9 and the 2-inch rollers. In fact, the ones that I use today are rollers that I purchased at the dollar store. Paintbrushes. I use a 2-inch paintbrush and a 4-inch paintbrush for a lot of gluing and painting. So this is a Amazon variety of a 2-inch, Harbor Freight variety of a 2-inch, Amazon version of a 4-inch, Harbor Freight version of a 4-inch. And again, I pick these up at the dollar stores. If I see them there, I usually pick up a few. That way always have plenty on hand, and I can just toss them when they're no good to me anymore. Here we go with a putty knife set, and I use a putty knife set for applying spackle to fill in low spots on the foam, and also a lot of times to fill in gaps along the glue ups. So you'll need a set of putty knives. This of course is Amazon versions and Harbor Freight versions, and again I have seen putty knives at the dollar store. Usually they're made of metal, though I'm not a big fan of the metal, but for a single bug out build, and if you want to save a little money, it would be an option as well. Next comes the wire crimper. So I include this wire crimper because it's the closest thing I could find that I use in my bug out builds. Just wire crimper itself, and you can usually find these at other places pretty reasonable, but I've just included this one with the set to show you what type of crimp tool I use. There is also a crimp tool through Harbor Freight, and I haven't actually used this particular tool, but I'm sure it would work fine for the crimping that needs to be done in the bug out build. And this brings us to the water bottle. The water bottle is used quite frequently in the bug out build, mostly in the canvas layout to keep canvas wet, and that helps us get the wrinkles out. So we definitely need water bottles, and I prefer water bottles with the screw nozzle, such as these. There are other water bottles available with a square type spray nozzle that has a 2-off position, a spray and a mist setting. I find those to be not very good for the bug out process, so do yourself a favor, find the ones with these screw tips. It allows you to adjust from a stream to a mist and anything in between, and it comes in quite handy for this particular type of bug out build. Really? So these are just the tools that I use in my bug out build, and they'll come in handy for you in your bug out build, whether you have to purchase or borrow. And I'm sure there's probably some tools that I missed, and if that's the case, we'll do another video of tools that I missed. So stay tuned for that, because I'm sure it'll be coming soon. So see you on the next video. Bug out.